Hey guys, I was going through looking at some of the beats and rhythms we've done in this reggae tutorial series, and I realised we haven't done a flipping Sleng Teng, one of the most famous bass lines ever.
Way in my brain, it's way in my brain, it's way in...
Yeah, one of the most famous bass lines ever, and the kind of first track that introduced the new electric feel to reggae. In the early 80s this was. So the whole thing was done on a cheap Casio keyboard. This is the story. So the beat, the drum beat, it was a preset in the keyboard. Like that. The bass sound was a bass preset from the keyboard, which, you know, because it was just a cheap keyboard, it was basically a square wave sound. And the keyboard sound was your typical really cheap early 80s home keyboard sound, which is like a cross between a really bad piano and a brass patch. So it hasn't got a really fast attack, it's got a slightly fading in attack. Right, and I say the drum beat, all analog sounds, is just buff, baff, buff, buff, baff, buff, buff, baff. So there's a kick at the end that cycles round to the beginning to give a double. So it's double kick, snare, double kick, snare, double kick, snare. Eighth hats, and then this splashy syndrome sound doing these kind of doubles and you know, like an echo coming back, da 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 da, and things like that. To hear that, I'll take it out of solo because I've got separate outs working. Okay, and these are optional. You can put these in different positions. So, Sleng Teng. Let's see how we do it. Make a new project. The first thing we're going to need is we need analog sounds for our drum kit. So we start with the software instrument. And when I say analog drum sounds, I mean the kind of like Roland CR78, you know, real old school analog drum box sounds. Because, you know, there's loads of versions of Sleng Teng. We don't have to get it exactly the same. As long as we've got the spirit of it, right? So instrument track, and there's the track. Here's its channel in the inspector column. And instead of loading a preset from the library, I'm going to load a raw instrument into the instrument slot here on the channel for the track. So I load an ultra beat in multi-out mode. Okay, now I'm going to do some stuff here with this. Everything I'm going to do here is covered in the... I did an in-depth tutorial on ultra beat. It's incredibly powerful, this. It's also the instrument that is behind Drum Machine Designer, providing all the sounds, right? So you really need to get into ultra beat. It's incredibly powerful and cool, this thing. So check out our channel for the full tutorial on this. But basically we're going to load samples in to make an analog drum sound kit. So starting with the kick channel here, I right click and initialize it for a sample. That turns off all the other oscillators except for the bottom one, which has the sample slot there empty, ready to load a sample into. We turn off the two bands of the EQ. You don't have to, but they're on, but there's no actual EQ, so just take them off. Take the oscillator here out of the filter by turning that red arrow off, and turn this oscillator velocity, loudness to velocity, turn it up full, because there's no velocity sensitivity with these analog drum sounds, right? And then we load our sample. Load sample. Now, I found that on my Mac, when I searched for 78 for a Roland CR78, I found this folder, Roland CR78, which is in the file path, Macintosh hard drive, GarageBand, instrument library, sampler files, Roland CR78. So the GarageBand has got a Roland CR78 sample set. If you don't have this, you just need to get some old school analog samples, right? Okay. Now with the Ultrabeat, one of the features is you can activate the play button here, and when you audition samples to load, you hear them. So, looking for a kick, I'm using the arrows to go up and down. There's my kick. Not that one with the gated sound, but this one. Just, it's a analog kick drum. It's got no thud to it. It's just a little doo like that. Open. That's loaded that sample into this voice slot. There it is. The amp envelope here automatically sets itself to the length of the sample when you load it. Okay, so I'll just title this slot kick. Okay, next we want an analog snare. So initialize this snare slot for initialize sample. Take it out of the filter, turn that up full, take the 2 bands for the EQ off, load the sample. Now I want a snare this time. Okay, play on. There it is, snare. I'll title this snare. There's my snare. Closed hat. Initialize the slot, the voice slot, as a sample. Take the filter off, turn that up full, take the EQ bands off, load the sample. This time we're looking for a hi-hat. So there's those two, or that one, or that one. I'll go with that one. Title this hats. There's no open and close, just the hat. Right. Then finally I want a clap sound that I'm going to put up in this top slot here. Now I want a thin, splashy syndrome sound. If you listen to what actually is playing in the track, it's quite a...
It's way in my brain. It's way in my...
It's an old syndrome pad being triggered, giving a sort of snare sound done with analog oscillator and a noise oscillator. Like, I haven't got a sample like that, so I'm just going to use a clap. Now, I can import a voice from another kit by doing import here. That takes me to the Ultrabeat drum kits. I can then choose any kit, like for example Dub Smash, open, and it opens all the voices for that kit here, and I can click on them, audition, right, and then if I find a sound I like, I can drag it and drop it into any voice slot in the current kit. Okay, now I can't remember where I got the clap from, so I'm going to do a different technique. I'm going to close this Ultrabeat in this project, go to the previous project. This is where I built the kit originally. Choose the drum track, open the Ultrabeat, go to this sound here, copy voice and sequence. I've copied the voice from this Ultrabeat voice slot in this project, and I go back to the other project where we're building it, open the Ultrabeat, go to that slot, right click and paste in the voice, and it does it. There it is. Right, it's a little bit quiet, but I haven't got it on separate outs yet. So there's my 4 drum sounds: kick, snare, hats, and a clap. Okay. So now the next thing, let's get these drums on a separate outs. So we go into the mixer. Remember, when I input the Ultrabeat into the instrument slot on the channel for this track, the raw Ultrabeat, I installed it as a multi-out Ultrabeat. There it is, look, multi-out, right? That means if we then go to the mixer and go to the channel for the Ultrabeat in the mixer here, at the bottom there's a little plus and minus button, so we can add additional outs. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 additional outs. Now the first output here, which has the instrument on it, is output 1, 2, the main out. That's going to have our kick, so I'll call it kick. Okay, and then we open the Ultrabeat. So there's the kick slot, and it's assigned on the output to output 1, main. So let's get the snare next and assign that to output 2, 3, 4. That's stereo out 3, 4. Right. Then the hats, I'm assigning those to output 5, 6. And the clap, I'm assigning to output 7, 8. So now they're on separate outs, these sounds. Let's get our beat together now. It's very simple. Single region, 1 bar. And this is the beat. It's really, really simple. The beat is kick. Let's have that at about a velocity of about 100. Right. Kick, snare, kick, kick, snare, kick, and that cycles round to the kick there. Let's put the metronome on. Tempo wants to be about 86, something like that, 84. Okay, and there's my hats. Get the brush tool, set this to 8ths. Let's brush in the hats. Shorten them. Just shortening these notes just makes it easier for me to see them on the 8ths. It doesn't make the sample playback shorter. There's that. So no velocity on these analog drum machines, right? It's just all the same velocity for every hit of the hi-hat. Okay, and we've got our clap sound up here, which we can use. I'll start by putting it just on each snare beat. Right. Okay, like that. So there's the beat. Now let's go to the mixer and get this mixed up a bit. So the kick's on here. Right. Then this is snare, so let's title that snare. This will be the hi-hats. Title that hats. And this will be the clap sound, which I'll call clap. Really it's an analogy snare syndrome sound, but okay. So the kick, now look, you can use the channel EQ in Logic, but I am using these IK multimedia plugins. They're very, very quick to work with, so I'm just going to use the basic EQ73 on the kick. It's really easy to use. I'm going to put some low end on the kick, but you're not going to get super low end out of this kick, 'cause it's an old cheap analog drum box, so 60 or 110 hertz, but you're not going to get deep 35 hertz out of it. Right. Okay, let's hear that. I want to give it a bit of body as well. Normally I'd scoop out a kick in the low mids, but I'll give this some body. Like that. Right. And then the snare. Let's just EQ this a bit. I'm going to give it some bottom end. Just reduce the fizz at the top a bit. I'm actually scooping out the low mids a little bit to make it a little bit less mid in. Like that. Okay. Then for my hats here. Why is that distorting when I add that? Low cut, take all the bottom out, take all the low mids out. There you go, nice fizzy hand. But not, it's not going to be too thin because it's analog. Finally, the clap sound here. quite low. Let's bring that input up. Now it's a thin. We want a thin sound like that. Something like that. There we go. I'm just going to put a compressor on the kick. For this, you can use any compressor, but I'm just going to use this white LA2A emulation. There we go, that'll do. And also on the snare. Right. Okay, that's basic kit for now, right, with separate outs. But if you want to get into more detail on this, as I say, watch the Ultrabeat tutorials, 4 chapters showing you absolutely everything about Ultrabeat, really in depth on our channel. Okay, so now the bass line. Now, instrument track. Now, it's a square wave bass. So again, I'm not going to load a preset from the library. There's the track, the instrument track. Here's its channel. I started off by using an ESM monosynth. Right, let's just quickly get some bass in. Now this gets the sound right. I think that's the right key. So that's the kind of sound. I think that's the right key. We'll look at the notes for this in a minute. Okay, and it's a square wave. But the trouble is this has got no release envelope, and we want the sound has to have some longer decay, so the notes spill into each other almost. So what I did is I ended up using the ESP polyphonic synth, because you've got an amp envelope here. Okay. And we raise the release. Really important, it has that longer release. Okay, I think that's the right key. Let's hear it again.
Way in my brain, it's way in my brain.
Yeah. So okay, bring the velocity down a bit. Make those just a smidge longer. So the beat is just semitone, all in 16ths. It can be any key you want, but I'm going to do it the same as that original. So C sharp to D, semitone on the first 16th, it's a semitone lower than the D we're working in, up to the D, 3/16. Then for the next beat, down a 16th to C sharp, and then 3 D notes, and then the third beat the same again, semitone down, C sharp, D, 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 and then at the end it goes da. Not that, but that. Right.
Way in my brain, it's way in my brain.
Yeah. Okay, now on here I'm going to put one effect, or not an effect, a processor. I'm going to put a compressor. Again, you can use any compressor. I'm going to use this optical compressor I quite like. I use this quite a bit. It's a nice little optical compressor. I'm just going to give it some 4:1 ratio. Longer release. That's it, right? And then the keyboard, new track, software instrument. And again, I didn't load a preset from the library for this. I put into the instrument slot, here is the track, here's its channel. I put in a retro synth, and I used the preset Bright Cycle, which gives me that cheesy old school I just want an old school sounding synth. So I'm going to put the little chaps in. What are we in? D, right? So the chaps are in the middle of each quarter beat. Let's put my snap 2 division in the middle of each quarter beat. Major like that. And then shorten that a bit. Let's move that out of the way a minute. So yeah, copy it over to the middle of that quarter beat, into the middle of that quarter beat, into the middle of that quarter beat. Now, although the bass line goes down just a semitone, the synth goes down 2 semitones. But that's how it is. It works though. Right? Not quite so loud. Now let's try putting that up an octave. There's the track. Here's the track parameter box. Let's try transposing it up an octave. That's too high, right? So this is the right kind of sound, but a key. But it's a little bit low, so what we do is we're going to double up these bottom notes an octave higher to give us a higher pitch note in that chord. Like that. And then C. Now the other thing is, you want this sort of cheesy, old school, really cheap keyboard sound. A little bit more release on the amp envelope, just a bit more, so like, you know. But the important thing is to have more attack, or less attack rather. Slower attack time, so it fades in like. Yeah, more like that. Okay. That's it really, apart from this clap thing. Now the claps, they need to come up louder. Claps, that's the clap. This is the bass. So the clap, let's bring that up. Yeah, the clap, you get these variations, right? You'll get, one is like this double like that. Yeah? Or you get that double clap like that, and then followed by another pair, but they sound like they're coming off an echo. little bit lower in velocity, sort of thing. And sometimes there's a triple like that, or like that, like a kind of clap, clap, clap. So those are variations you can put in, right? Okay, let me just get a little bit trebly. That clap. Okay, so that's the basic beat, right? We'll look at it again in a second. Now I want to do another thing here. I'm going to get everything, all of the channels for all the instruments, kick, snare, hats, the clap, bass and the keyboard, but take the bass out. So I select all those, but command left click on that one to get rid of it. So those are all selected, all those channels for everything apart from the bass. And we put an auxiliary send on all of them because they're all selected. When I put this auxiliary send on one channel, it'll add it to all of them. That creates an auxiliary return here, receiving on the bus 1. These are all sending out on bus 1. And on here we put a reverb. Now again, you can use any reverb, but I'm going to use I really like this IK Multimedia plate. I'm going to use the gold plate 1, which has a stereo out, and I'm going to increase the time to about 2.5 seconds, right? So now every channel I can send out reverb. So the clap, for example, here. Okay, but we want the sound reaching that reverb to have less bottom end on it, so I'm going to drop the reverb down on its auxiliary return. Let's title this reverb. And in front of it I'm going to put an EQ. Again, I could use a channel EQ, but this is just really fast to use this. And I'm just going to take the bottom end out here so that what gets to the reverb is thin. I'm going to increase that reverb time. That's just over 3 seconds. Right, so anything I can add reverb to. My keyboard here. My snare. Whatever I like. Okay, that's that. Now, let's select all the channels again. You select the first one, hold down shift, select the last one, not the reverb return, just the instrument channels. Again, now I've got them all selected, hold command and click to remove the bass. So all the output channels for everything except for the bass is selected, and of course not the reverb return. I'll put a second auxiliary send on to the next available bus, bus 2, and a third one to the next available bus, bus 3. So every channel apart from the bass has 3 auxiliary sends. Now the first send goes to the reverb, bus 1. Bus 2 goes to here. This is going to be our echo 8s. And on here I put a tape delay. Doing 8th dotted, not too much feedback, more wet, no dry at all because it's on an auxiliary return. This is my 8th echo, so anything can have an 8th echo added to it, like this. Or the keyboard. A little bit more feedback. Okay, and then Finally, auxiliary send 3, sending out on bus 3, which comes back here. I'll put another tape delay on here, and I'm going to set this tape delay to 16th dotted, which will give me a rolling really fast. Wet up, no dry. And feedback's at about 19% or so. So this is my echo 16ths. Now if I send the hi-hat out to this, for example, I get that rolling right. That compressor down on the bass, and I'm going to put an EQ on the bass, just give it a bit of body down the bottom, about 100 Hertz. And some 1.5K just to give it some. That's it. Except these notes in the bass line just a smidge less close, and I've put too much release on the synth now. That's it. So the bass line, like that. If you want to do variation, bring that down. So it goes rather than the semitone, which is more major, right? But it's just in every quarter beat, it's then or right? And even though this drops in the original semitone, the synth is dropping down a tone, and that's just major, major, major. Come on, and then it drops down a tone. Yeah, kick drum, buff, snare, buff, buff, snare, buff, buff. So it's just playing the same thing all the time. Eighth hats, and you got this thing like that. You know, sometimes it's a double followed by another double. Sometimes it's 3. Or sometimes that's missing, and you get clap, clap, clap. Right. And I'll put a little bit of reverb on that so it splashes. That's it, that's your Sleng Teng. Yeah. You know, I've done it using analog drums because that's what the spirit of the original is. You can do a Sleng Teng with real drums and a completely different drum sound. You can do it with a real bass, but it's that bass line. That is the Sleng Teng. The beat is just, it's, you know, buff, baff, buff, buff, baff, buff, buff. You know, it's simple. Right? So it's all about that bass line. It's a Sleng Teng.